There's just nothing like a summer peach, but they're just gone way too soon. In this video, I'll show you how to preserve them so you can enjoy them all year long in this beginner-friendly canning tutorial. So in these two boxes, I have almost a bushel of peaches. And these are what you call a cling-free peach. And what that means is when you cut it open, the seed, or what they call the stone on the inside, does not stick to the skin of the peach. And cling-free is the best kind of peach if you are going to be canning them. If you are a beginner canner, peaches is a really good thing to start with because you water bath them, they're easy, and it's a lot like tomatoes really, and this is a good thing to start with. The first thing I always do whenever I'm canning anything is clean my kitchen and put away anything that I don't need that is on the surface areas. Put it away because you need all the surface area you can get. Most people don't have a canning kitchen, which would have lots of counter space and big sinks and all of that. So if you have a regular kitchen like me, then the more you can put away, the better, because you need all your space. You water bath canned peaches. Whenever you water bath, you want to make sure you sterilize your jars. You don't have to sterilize the jar if you're pressure canning it. But if you're going to water bath it, you need to sterilize it. And what I did with these jars, so here's my canner. So I put my water in my canner and I put my jars down in the water and I boiled them for 10 minutes and now they're sterilized. So some people sterilize them in the oven. I'm not real keen on that idea. I have done it before, but I just think dry heat in the oven weakens your jars, and I don't like it when my jars break. So if that's the way you do it and it works for you, fine, but you need at least to bring them up to boiling temperature for 10 minutes to sterilize them. So I have 7 jars here, which would be a run, and here I have my what I'm going to be using for my canner. This is not a canning pot. This is a large stock pot. You do not have to have a special kettle to water bath. And I just want to make sure you know you need a rack in the bottom. And I have all kinds of racks, but I could not particularly find my rack this morning. I wanted to show you how you can improvise. So here I have canning rings that I just bound together, and I put them in the bottom of my kettle. You do not want to set your jars directly on the bottom of your pot that you're canning in. So you need something to raise it up. And they make rings and different things that you can put down in the pot. And if you don't have one, but you have a really big pot and you want a water bath, just make yourself one out of canning rings. And so I have my water in here. I've already brought it to a boil because I sterilized my jars. You want to get your water hot before you put your peaches in there. Because if you have a big pot of cold water and you put 7 jars of peaches in a big pot of cold water, it's going to take a long time for that to start boiling. But if you have your water already hot, then it boils a lot faster. And this is, especially if you're using a stock pot and you don't have a canning pot, well, even the canning pots, this is a good idea. So I just roll up a piece of aluminum foil and I put it over here so that when I put my lid on my pot and it's boiling, right there in the back is a little opening for the steam to come out. So the steam goes up under my oven hood and you don't get a bunch of splatter and splutter all around the edge of your pot. And here I have another kettle full of hot water, which I will be turning on here in a minute to bring to a boil. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn that on so it can start boiling, because we are going to, I guess you call it, blanch the peaches before we peel them, and that makes the skin just come right off, and I'll show you how that works when we get there. Here I have my lids that go on top of my jars, my lids. Now, years ago, they used to tell you to boil your lids before you used them when you were canning. and now they tell you that you don't have to. But I do, especially when I'm water bath canning, for two reasons. One, I want to sterilize them, and boiling them will sterilize them. And two, I have found I get a higher seal rate, a lower fail rate, if I boil my lids, especially if you've had them for a while. You know, that rubber can get a little hard that's around there, and if you bring them to a boil, they're softer, and you just get a better seal. And you do need to sterilize them. So this is a funnel that we're going to use when we put our peaches down in our jars to keep from getting peach syrup everywhere on the jar. This is a spider spoon that we're going to use to put our peaches down in our boiling water when we blanch them. And this is just a ladle that we can use to ladle the syrup or whatever into the jar. And here I have 10 cups of filtered water. And I just estimated how much I'm going to need. I may have to make another pot, but my pot only holds a gallon of water, so I'm using 10 cups of water in this, and I'm going to make a syrup to go in the peaches. You can put a medium syrup or a heavy syrup on your peaches. And I know I'm going to get comments of, oh my gosh, that's a lot of sugar. But I like a heavy syrup on my peaches. I have tried it both ways. Some people use apple juice, and I have tried that too. You can use apple juice, or you can make yourself a syrup. I like a heavy syrup because when I'm not going to eat the syrup most of the time, maybe some of it if you're making a cobbler, but most of the time we just eat our peaches, you know, out of the jar, take the peaches out of the syrup, and I want them to be sweet. If you put them in a very light syrup, I think the water draws all the flavor and the sweetness out of the peach, and it just doesn't taste that good. So what I'm going to do here is I have 10 cups of water, and to this I am going to add, brace yourself, 7 cups of sugar. So the book says for a heavy syrup it's 5 cups of water and 3.5 cups of sugar. So I have 10 cups of water, and I'm going to do 7 cups of sugar, and we're going to boil it, and that's going to make our heavy syrup that we're going to put into the jars after we get our peaches in the jar. Now, here I have lemon juice, and I have a big bowl of water. And when you peel your peaches, you want to put them in a bath that has some acid in it, whether it be lemon juice. You could use citric acid, but you don't want them to turn brown before you get a chance to get them in your jar and get them covered with syrup. So we're going to use lemon juice, and I'm going to go ahead and put some lemon juice in this, and you can measure it if you want to, but I just guesstimate. I just know I need a little lemon juice in the water, and it'll keep my peaches from turning brown. And here I have 2 more bowls. So this big bowl here, we are going to save our seeds and our peeling, our skins, and we're going to use that later, probably not today, maybe tomorrow or another day. We'll freeze them, we can freeze them or keep them however, and make jelly out of the peelings and the seeds. So we're going to save them here. This little bowl here is to hold any maybe bad places that we find. Maybe it has a rotten spot or a big bug bite or something that you would not want in your jelly. You wouldn't want to eat it. So this is the literal scrap bowl is what I would call it. I am going to get this syrup on to boil, and then I'm going to wash some peaches and blanch them so that Mom can get to peeling them. So let's put our sugar. So I need 7 cups of sugar. 7. Now, I know I'm probably going to get questions about, can you use artificial sweetener? And I do not know the answer to that. If I find out before I finish this video, I'll let you know. I know you can use apple juice. If you don't want to use sugar, you can just use straight up apple juice for the liquid in your jars. We're going to put this on the stove and bring it to a boil. So an important step in preparing your peaches is to rinse them off in some clean water. And then we're going to place them into our boiling water just for few seconds, and this loosens the skin so that it just peels right off of the peach and you don't lose any peach when you're taking the skin off. So now I'm removing them here from the pot of boiling water and putting them into another bowl. And after that, they will be ready to peel and take the skin off. And here you can see my mother peeling the peaches and taking out the seed. And the seed just pops right out. You can see here how she just does that with her knife. She just pops the seed right out. Now, if your seeds don't come out this easy, you'll have to cut the peach off of the seed. And so she's just continuing to peel, and I'm taking more out of the boiling water. Just getting a bunch of them done. And here I wanted to show you an up close of how the skin just comes right off of this peach. And the peach is just so beautiful under that skin. It saves all the color. And it's just a beautiful peach, and that skin is just so thin and it just comes right off. And then if you take your knife and cut all the way around down to the seed, you can just pop it open and the seed just comes right out. And you can cut them in half, or you can do quarters, however you want to do it. Now I just wanted to give you another close-up there of that skin coming off the peach. And Mom is wearing gloves because the peaches are hot. While Mom is continuing to peel the peaches, I'm going to go ahead and we have enough to start filling some jars. And so I'm going to go ahead and start filling some jars with some peaches and get our first run on here in the water bath canner. And I was afraid the peaches might not fit through this funnel, so I am going to forego the funnel and just wipe my jars off. And you want to get as many peaches as you can in a jar. But I don't go to any special effort to place them around or anything. I guess you could. But I just fill up the jar. And you do want to leave about 1 inch head space. And as we go along, I don't want my peaches to turn brown, so when I get a jar full, I'm going to go ahead and ladle the syrup on top. And I fill that up until it comes to the shoulder, that last ring here on the jar. That's your 1 inch, and we want to leave 1 inch of head space. They make a tool for debubbling, and I do have one or maybe two, but I never can find it when I'm canning. But you want to make sure that there's no big bubbles down in between your peaches and your juice. And so you just need to, if you do use a case knife, be careful. You don't want to clang really hard around on your jar, but you just put it down in there, and you can see the bubbles coming out when you do that. And sometimes you have to add a little liquid. That's how much air was down in there. So just take your knife and run it right down in the side. I wish you could see those bubbles coming up, but all kinds of big bubbles come up. You know, the air gets trapped between the peaches. I do have my canner on, bringing it to a good boil. Now this is considered raw pack. A hot pack would be, even though my syrup is hot and the jars are pretty warm, a hot pack would be when you actually put your syrup and your peaches in boiling, in a pot, and bring it to a boil. That's considered a hot pack. And the reason you would do that, for one, it would make your peaches, so you'll notice that these peaches are floating. See how there's water here on the bottom, and that will increase after we can them. You'll notice it even more. And if you hot pack them, that won't happen. It just makes the fruit sink, I guess. I don't know what you'd call it. But there's nothing wrong with them floating, even if they float up above the liquid. And so I'm wiping the tops of the jars off now with my paper towel that has white vinegar on it, because I want to get any of that sticky syrup off and any kind of peach that might be on the rim, because anything at all between this rim and your lid could cause it not to seal. So now I have them cleaned off, I have them debubbled, and I'm going to put my lids on. And I'm just using this little lid lifter. It's just a magnet, picks up your lid so that you can get it out of the boiling water. Oh, try not to do that. And now we're going to put our rings on finger tight. And that means I'm going to use my fingers and I'm going to tighten the lid until it starts to resist and then stop. You don't want to wrench it on really hard. You just want to stop when it's tight. And that's what finger tight is. So when we put these down in the water, you want to make sure the water comes at least 1 inch above your jar and your lid. So I'm going to place these down in the canner. I'm going to bring the camera over so you can see. So you can see my water is boiling. And my jars, although they're not boiling hot, they are plenty warm. You want to use your jar lifter to put them down in here because we don't want to get burnt. You would not want to put a cold jar down in that boiling water because it would break. It's a good idea to keep a pot of boiling water, an extra pot of boiling water. If you don't have enough water in your canner to last for these, where I'm at, my altitude, and quart jars of peaches are water bath for 30 minutes. And where I'm at, I have to add 5, so it's 35 minutes. And that water has to stay an inch above this jar during that 35 minutes. If you think it's going to boil away before then, you're going to want a pot of boiling water to add to it. Because if you add cold water to this pot and the rolling boil stops, you've got to start that 30 minutes over. So when this comes back to a rolling boil, I'm going to set a timer for 35 minutes. And it's already beginning to boil, but it's not a rolling boil yet. It almost is, and I'll show you when it gets there. Okay, so this is what you call a rolling boil. See how it's boiling hard, and if you stir it, it does not stop boiling. That's a rolling boil, and that's how it's supposed to be boiling when you set your timer for your water bath. So when the time is up, 35 minutes in my case, you're going to want to turn the eye off. And we're going to remove the lid. And when the boil calms down and it's not a rolling boil anymore, then we'll take our jars out. Okay, so now the boil has calmed down, and we're going to go ahead and lift our jars out with our jar lifter. Just lift them straight up and sit them on a towel somewhere to dry. And here's what I was telling you about how they float. See this liquid at the bottom and the peaches on the top? If that bothers you, which they'll sink when they when they settle. But if that bothers you, then you might want to do the hot pack where you boil them in the syrup before you put them in the jar. I love that pretty pink color. Just look. Just, can you see that? Hopefully you can see that pretty pink color. It might look yellow there on the camera, but the water down in here is really pretty pink. So the next day, after your peaches have cooled, you'll want to wash them off in some warm soapy water to get any residue off of the jars, and this will prevent any mold from growing on the jar while they're in storage. And then I just wipe them off, and then I dry them off, and then I will write with a magic marker on the lid what's in the jar and the date, because you always want to eat your oldest food first, and so if you write the date on there, that helps you know. And although we can see these are peaches, sometimes it's hard to recognize later on. And out of this, a bushel of peaches, counting what we ate and what we gave away, we ended up with 21 quarts of canned peaches. If you are enjoying these videos, please consider subscribing to my channel, like this video, and leave me a comment below. God bless. Bye-bye.